Well, joining us now on Encounter is actor, entertainer, comedian, singer, and author Robert Hanley, who has written this book in my hand, Do You See What I See? Discovering the Obvious. And thank you so much for being with us, Robert.
Thank you, Kevin. I appreciate the invitation and just want to congratulate you on all that you're doing on the station there and you personally for all the shows you're involved with. I know it's a lot of work, but it's doing good work. It's doing the right thing. So thank you. I appreciate it.
Thank you. Appreciate you for saying that. Maybe if we could start by...
You can give me the $5. You can send me the $5 later.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I thought it was only $2.
Okay.
Well, maybe we could start by talking about why you decided to put these stories down into print.
Fair enough question. At the time that I started writing a story, I was deep in show business and for a lot of years, actually. And I wrote a story with the idea of stand-up comedy in mind, all that people go through who are stand-up comedians. And it was on fear and tying that in. And this is decades ago, but it gave me a sense that I could write. I mean, I've always written, but it gave me more of a sense of the genre of storytelling. And I could see it helped a couple of people there. And that later led to me writing some more of those stories for, I'd like to say God tapped me on the shoulder and I started a group called the Entertainment Fellowship, which basically put God and career together. And so from these stories, I could see it was helping people. And, that was the springboard really. And I just kept writing stories. I was writing one a month or whatever. And then when I looked at the people who were not in show business or in show business, and this one gal came up to me and said, Robert, could I copy this story, which was on a sheet of paper? And she said, my husband's a lawyer and I'd like him to read it. I think it would help him and the people in his office. And so I could see that people were getting where I was coming from. And those stories gave me the idea of writing the book and subsequently starting another fellowship called the Fireside Fellowship, which maybe we'll get to in a bit. But one thing led to another. So there you go.
And maybe, so if people haven't got the book yet, too, these are wonderful stories about sort of finding some meaning in just simple things. And I was wondering if there has to be some sort of frame of mind to be in to sort of recognize some of these things that sort of pop up. And, maybe if you could speak on that and to be able to recognize things that are going on in people's lives.
Now, Kevin, I could speak on that for, what time is it? You're on the East Coast, I'm on the West Coast. You use the term frame of mind, and you're spot on with that. I use the term perspective a lot. We each have our own perspective on things. And basically, the book you're holding in your hand, the book is called, and it's kind of right on the cover, Do You See What I See? Discovering the Obvious. And it's about finding a better, more meaningful life. It's about finding things in everyday experiences that seem to just float past the observations of most people. And I could give you an example if you'd like of that, and I'll be succinct, I promise you. You want to, I was going to say, the book, by the way, is for everybody. It's not just for Catholics, but certainly the Fireside Fellowship is more spiritual, which was a spiritual supplement to the book. But the book is for everyone, and it does have spiritual chapters in it, as you likely know at this point. But there's one story that maybe your viewers would be interested in, and I think they'd be interested in all of them, actually, I might say, with some humility somewhere in what I just said. I was hosting the Special Olympics, the California Special Olympics, and it's a 3-day event. And at closing ceremonies on Sunday, Rayford Johnson was announcing, and there were about 1,000 people behind me. I was on the field with celebrities and sports figures, people in show business and such. And Rayford Johnson mentioned that this young girl who would like to now walk for you. She hasn't walked in 10 years of her life. Wow. And she wants to walk for you now. Well, just that sentence got our attention in a big way, everybody in the stadium. And the gal got out of the 10-year-old gal got out of her wheelchair, and she just stood there, and she was sort of swerving as if she had too much alcohol. And at one point, she swung her leg around and took the first step, and I just thought, wow, that was really something. Then she swung the other leg again around and took a couple of steps, and she fell down. And it was a engaging moment, shall we say, and nobody helped her up. And on her own, she got up. She took 2 more, 3 more steps, fell down again. And she was walking along and got up again. And she was walking along a narrow black mat to get to her coach, who was kneeling there with his hands up. Well, after several minutes, she got to him and slapped his hands, and the audience just went bananas. Yeah. And at one point, he took her to center stage, so to speak, and he raised her hand as if she were the heavyweight champion of the world. And then he let go, and she just stood there by herself. And as I say in the book, it was the greatest applause I've ever heard, 1,000 people, because we were so touched.
Yeah.
And for me, perspective, and to your question, as far as frame of mind, my perspective was, how many times do we in our lives go down our own narrow black mats? We fall down, we get up, and we forget to look at what we've been through and respect what we are going through. Sure. And you know, we all fall down in life, and the idea of getting up, that's the thing that we respected most and touched us most about this young gal. Yeah. So seeing that, there were 1,000 people there. I don't know how many people got that frame of mind, to use Nelson's phrase, but that was my perspective. And the stories in the book relate, whether they're religious or non-religious. They all contain universal topics that we can all relate to. So that's one example.
Yeah, it's a great story, and a bunch of other great stories in here as well. And I know you wanted to get quickly, we're just about out of time, but if you could just quickly tell us about the Fireside Fellowship, and just quickly get into that before we leave.
The mission of the Fireside Fellowship is to enable people to recognize Judeo-Christian principles in everyday events and apply them to their lives. We meet each month, and each meeting contains a story from my book, and that's a practical story, and then I address it from a spiritual story. So I just gave you one on perseverance, and if that were what the Fireside Fellowship were going to do at a meeting, I would have and have addressed it from St. Paul's journey, you know, all that he went through. He was beaten and out at sea for a day and a night, and other saints and biblical personalities, if you will. And certainly the Passion of our Lord is another example of perseverance and getting through. By the way, if anybody is interested in the Fireside Fellowship or my book, you could just go to my site, robert-hanley.com, robert-hanley.com. Be happy to hear from you.
Excellent. That was my last question. You just answered it. Thank you. Where can people get a copy of the book?
And you can call me personally. My number's 1, Kevin, and just dial that on your cell phone. I don't know how that happened, but
operators are standing by.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much, Robert, for being with us. We appreciate it. It's a great book, great read, and as you said, we'll have information too about where people can get the book too at the end of this show. So thank you so much for being with us, Robert.
And thank you for having me, and continue in your mission on the stations and shows that you do. You really have something going, and you're making a difference in this world.